And welcome back to Philly Sports Spotlight. This good-looking fella here to my left, your right, of course, is Ken Dunek, former Eagles tight end from the 1980 Super Bowl team, played for Dick Vermeil. And he was at training camp, actually the open practice this past Sunday down at Lincoln Financial Field because he's an alumni. And Jeffrey Lurie invited all the alumni to come hang out in the booth. Must have been nice to hang out up there in the owner's box. But we're talking about Chip Kelly and some of the challenges he's going to face now as the new Eagles head coach. His first challenge now is going to be trying to find a way to replace Jeremy Maclin, who's lost for the season with an ACL tear suffered in practice.
Yeah, that's a tough blow. I mean, Maclin is an established veteran, and anytime you lose a starter this early in camp, it's a difficult deal. And the one thing I love about Chip is he's making you earn your position. There's a competition at quarterback. Michael Vick is not going to have this handed to him. It's the same at wide receiver. Deshaun Jackson does not have his position handed to him, although it seems now with the numbers, with Maclin gone, that it seems likely that Jackson will hold on to that slot position. But you've got Riley Cooper, you've got Jason Avant, and you've got Demarius Johnson, who a lot of people think will be the punt returner, probably locking up one of those wide receiver slots. So there's a slew of other ones to choose from, and they've got to come up with a good one because, you know, with a few injuries, you need to go maybe 6, 7 deep at that position.
It's going to be interesting how Chip is going to play that. You were very impressed with some of the Eagle rookies that were drafted this year by the Chip Kelly regime. There's one player in particular that I was impressed with who actually almost quit the game of football back in college. Here's that story.
I grew up in the time when the Oilers moved to Tennessee and we didn't have a football team, and so I watched the draft one year, and it was the year that the Eagles took McNabb second, and I started like following him, and then as I was following him, I started following the team, and I just became like a big time Eagles fan. I got a bunch of Eagles stuff at home, so when I got the phone call on draft day, it was like a dream come true. Well, I really wanted to go to Kansas State, because that was like my first letter. So I was, pumped. I was like, oh yeah, I want to go to Kansas State now. More coaches started coming to spring practice, and then I had all these letters, like 3 shoe boxes full, and called my mom. I was like, hey, I think I'm going to commit to Oklahoma today. And she's like, are you sure? I was like, yeah. So I called up the coach and told him I was coming, and then ended up at Oklahoma and had a great time there and won a lot of ball games. My mom she stayed on me. Because I didn't play a lot of sports until I got to high school, so she was always, sports will be there, but if you get an education, no one can ever take that from you. And I graduated college and got my degree, so after football is long and done, I'll have that piece of paper to fall back on. I remember it like it happened yesterday. It was February 12th, and it was a Friday, and I had finished workouts for the day. And my cousin called and was like, hey, the doctor called and said your she's not doing well, and her medical condition took a turn for the worse last night. Because it wasn't the first time it happened, and it happened once, and she bounced out of it. So I was like, okay. Then my cousin called me back and was like, hey, it's real serious. I'm gonna have the doctor call you. So the doctor called, and the doctor was like, yeah, your mom, her blood pressure just collapsed overnight, and she's already said that if she were to go under, she doesn't want to be resuscitated. So I was like, all right. So I called my aunts, and I called my best friend's dad, who I live with now, the McVaney's, and I was like, hey, the doctors called and said my mom, her condition is doing worse. Can you just go drive over and check on her? And he's like, yeah, I'll do that. And then he got to the hospital. He called me back about 30 minutes later and was like, hey, it's not looking good. You need to get home now. So I booked a flight. Of all days for a flight to get delayed, my flight to Houston got delayed. So I was just like, in the middle of the airport, my friend's dad called back and was like, hey, she didn't make it. It didn't sit in on you because, when somebody tells you something you don't want to hear, you're just like, no, I'm not going to accept that. It's something that I hope, no kid should ever have to do, especially I was 20 years old, and then all of a sudden I had all these responsibilities, that no 20-year-old kid has been fit for, especially someone, playing busy with college and stuff. So when stuff like that happens, football takes a backseat. So I was just like, do I even really want to play football anymore? And, I was just kind of going through the motions of the workouts. And then there was a point where I was just sitting down feeling sorry for myself, and I was just like, you know what? My mom would be more mad at me for sitting around and, letting my grades and my, athletic life come to the point that it's at now, knowing how bad I wanted to play football as a kid, and how important education is. So, I had a heart-to-heart with myself, and I got my stuff back on track, and pulled my grades back up, and caught back up in school, and I graduated. So I'm just trying to make her happy. Over my last 2.5 years there, you see more teams come by, and they're out at practice, and they're watching you. The scouts are watching you with the notepads, and writing down everything you do. And I'm just like, hey, maybe I got a real shot at this thing, and just did everything I could on and off the field to put myself in a position to have the opportunity that I have now, and that's to play for, childhood favorite team. That's the Eagles.
Great story there about rookie defensive lineman David King. Thank you to the good folks at the Eagles Television Network for that piece. We're going to take another break right about here. When we come back, we're going to talk a little bit about the Hall of Fame class. That's the Pro Football Hall of Fame class of 2013. Stay tuned. Nothing.